Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Educate 360. Welcome to today's webinar, Power BI Data Analytics for Beginners, presented by our fantastic instructor for today, Ed McCrae. We are in Zoom for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A portion after the presentation. Educate 360 is excited to present this webinar to you today. I will now hand it over to you, Ed.
All right, hello to everyone, and again, welcome to our webinar. This is Data Analytics with Power BI. Again, I am your instructor, Ed McCrae, and it is my pleasure to be here with you. Let's just jump right into what we're going to be covering during our webinar here. We are going to discuss how to import data. We're going to talk about modeling and transforming data, and we're going to talk about managing of reports and of dashboards. Now, of course, all this is being done in Power BI, which is a business intelligence solution. That is what the BI in Power BI stands for. Look at that. You learned something already, right? It stands for business intelligence. Whenever we're thinking about a business intelligence solution, there are four things that any business intelligence solution should allow us to do. And those things are, first of all, it should allow us to import data from multiple sources, right? The whole point and purpose of a business intelligence solution is data analysis. And so we need to be able to pull data in from a variety of sources, right? Oftentimes that's going to mean Excel workbooks, but it could mean all kinds of different databases, online or cloud-based sources, on-premise or local sources, right? Wherever it is our data is, we need to get it into our business intelligence solution, and we need to create something called a data model within that solution. And that data model is going to become what we base all of our reporting and things or dashboards on, right? So that's the first thing it needs to do for us. Secondly, it needs to give us powerful tools for manipulating and transforming our data. When we pull that data in, especially if that data is coming from Excel, more often than not, it is going to need to be cleaned up a bit. We are going to possibly have columns that are separated that need to be joined together, columns that are separated that need to be or that are together that need to be separated. We might have calculations we have to do, all kinds of different things, and we need our business intelligence solution to allow us to do that. Thirdly, business intelligence solutions should be able to visualize data. That is the whole point, is data analysis, taking our raw, ugly data and displaying it in a way that's more visually appealing and easier for our audience to understand. And then lastly, we need to be able to share that data, right? What good is all this wonderful data analysis if no one else can have access to it? So we need to be able to share this data out with whoever it is that needs to have access to it so that they can see it and utilize it, right? And Power BI is going to do all of these things for us. Now, there are three different platforms or ways that we can access Power BI. Those would be the Power BI web service. This is the tool that we can access via Office 365. Power BI is a part of the Office 365 Power Platform, so we can access it via the web service. We also have Power BI Desktop, which is the downloadable and installable version, locally installable version of Power BI. You can download that from the web service, or your organization might make it available in other ways. And then lastly, we have Power BI Mobile, which is where we can view our reports and such and dashboards on our mobile devices, phones, phones and tablets and what have you. If you are going to take full advantage of the use of Power BI, you need to at least utilize the web service and the desktop. There are things that each of them do exclusively, and there's an area of overlap where you can do the same thing in both. So let's talk quickly about the different components of Power BI and what platform we would use to access those components. The first and most important component is the data set or data model. This is the combination of all the data we've imported, right, and used formulas or whatever to manipulate. This is going to be done using Power BI Desktop, and I'm going to demonstrate this for you in just a moment. It gives us more tools than the web service does for importing data. The web service is going to be extremely limiting in where you can import data from, and it's going to be limiting in ways you can transform that data The desktop version is not going to be. And so this is our weapon of choice for creating our data model or data set. Then we have reports. Reports are a page-based space where the dimensions are similar to PowerPoint, in which we are able to create our report. So this is where we actually create our visualizations, right? This is the report, and this is where there is overlap. We can create reports in both the desktop and in the web service. You'll get the exact same options in both of those places. Lastly, we have dashboards, and dashboards are more of a free-flowing space where we can take existing visualizations that exist inside of existing reports and we can pin them together in a dashboard, right? So let's say that you are a regional manager for Target, right? And you oversee 20 stores. And the managers of those stores all have reports where they are giving statistics or what have you for their store, and then you need to build a dashboard that shows statistics for the region as a whole. You can pull in key graphics or key elements from those different reports and put them all together in one dashboard so that your higher ups can access and see those things. Okay. This is done exclusively, by the way, in the web service. Only the web service can create dashboards. So typically the way that this flows is we start by connecting to data. We are then able to transform and combine that data. And then we can explore and analyze that data, which is going to get into the creation of visualizations within our reports, the creation of dashboards, ultimately the publishing of this data to the web service so we can create dashboards and share out our data so that others can see and utilize it. All right, that being said, let's jump into Power BI. And let's take a look at how we are able to do some things. And for those who are typing things into the Q&A, we will address questions at the end of the session. All right. All right, so here is Power BI Desktop. I'm working in Power BI Desktop because this is the tool that we want to use for creating our data model. I am going to start by pulling some data into my data model. And I can do that by coming over here to the data area. We have get data here, and just to show you all the different places we can pull data in from, there's a lot of them, right? You can just look here. I'm not going to go through all the different sections, but you can just look through here and just see that there's pretty much nowhere where you can't get data into Power BI from, right? Look at all this. This is insanity, right? So you can pull data in from wherever it is that you want. And if for some reason you can't, it's only one step away. Just convert it to an Excel file or a CSV file, and there you go. You can get it into Power BI. All right, I want to import some data from an Excel workbook, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Excel workbook. I'm going to click connect, and let's go ahead and just browse over here and grab some materials. Let's do that. We're going to pull some stuff from our data analyst practitioner course here. And let's go ahead and connect to this data right here. All right, so I'm connecting to this Excel workbook. We'll let this load up for us. And when it loads up, it's going to allow me to visualize the data here. And it is also going to give me options for either loading it or transforming it. So I could just click on any of these. It's going to show me any of the worksheets and any of the tables that are inside of the workbook. Here's products. Here's sales orders, right? And let's say I'm like, all right, I want to just pull both of these in. I'm going to check both of these tables off. Down at the bottom, I have the option to load or to transform. Transform would load this data up into Power Query and allow me to clean the data up and manipulate it however I want to. I'm going to go ahead and load this up. We're going to do an example of transforming using Power Query in just a moment. Let's go ahead and hit load. It is going to load this up into my data model. You can see here that it is applying the changes. It's beginning to load the data and it's creating connections. When you are working with Excel, it is actually fully loading the data up into the model, right? Excel does not support or give you options to switch where you have a direct query instead of a load as it's doing right now. If you're working with a database, we would have that option. to, instead of loading it up into the data model, maintain a connection to the data so that we can see changes in more of a real-time type of situation. All right. All right, so there we go. It's loaded up. I can look over here and I can see here are products. Here's my sales orders table. Let's expand this real estate a little bit so we can see a little bit better. Now, if I switch my view here to the table view, which I can do using these options in the upper left-hand corner, I can see the actual raw data display here for me. Here are all of my products. Here are all of my sales orders. This is good. If I go into the model view, I am going to see that it has automatically created a relationship between these two tables. So this is a really cool thing that Power BI does. When we import data, it's going to automatically see if that data we're importing can be related to existing data. And if it can, it's going to go on ahead and create that relationship. Relationships are important because in order for me to create a visualization that pulls in or uses fields from multiple tables, those tables have to be related, right? And so I can see a relationship has been created here based on the product ID field. That's the field they have in common. And this is a one-to-many relationship. In the interest of time, we won't get deep into what that means, but this is the most common type of relationship. Okay. All right, what if I were to import another set of data? Let's pull in a CSV file here, text/CSV, and I've got a CSV file sitting right here. Let's see if we can't import this and see if it establishes a relationship here for us. Okay, we can see a slightly different navigator because this is a text file, but same concept. I can load or I can transform. Let's load this right on up. And it is going to load in. And we are going to see, I don't know if you saw it real quick there, it said detecting relationships. And we can see that it has detected and established a relationship here as well between sales orders. I'm going to rename this real quick. Let's call this customers instead of what it named it. So this is great, right? Just that quick, I've imported 3 different sets of data into my data model here. Now, what if I wanted to go back into Power Query? So I've already imported the data. Maybe I want to go back into Power Query and I recognize I want to change some things about the data, or maybe there's some other information I want to pull in and clean up. I have a transform data option, the same transform data that we saw in the import process. I have it right here. And if I click on transform data, it's going to load me back into Power Query. When it loads me into Power Query, I'm going to see that the queries that I have made are in existence here. So sales orders, products, and customers. These are all here for me. This is fantastic. And I could start to manipulate this data. Now, one of the things I could do is I could start pulling in other data. You notice here that this data was in 2 separate files, so I needed to do 2 separate imports. In Power Query, I don't have to do that. If I come up here to new source, I can just start adding in all the sources I want right from here, right? So when we first did our first import, I could have stepped into Power Query and done this. I'm going to pull in another Excel workbook real quick. I'm going to choose Excel workbook. I'm going to pull some data in here that I'm going to want to clean up a little bit. And let's do a little bit of transforming of this data. I'm going to pull in this sales reps list, which is not set up correctly. Let's just click OK. And it's going to go ahead and pull that on in for us. There we go. There's sales reps. Beautiful. And this is just not how we want our data to look. And so I'm quickly just going to clean this up. Again, if you want to learn step by step how to do this, you're going to want to take one of our full Power BI courses. I'm just going to quickly clean this up. Let's get rid of these extra rows at the top here, right? Let's say remove rows. Let's get rid of a couple of these rows here. Come on, there we go. All right, let's go ahead and promote this first row to be the header row. Nice and easy. Beautiful. Notice all the changes I'm making are showing up over here in this applied steps area, right? So I can always go back and undo stuff if that's what I wanted to do. Let's split this sales rep column up into two separate columns by going to split by delimiter. It's going to give me two columns, one with the region and the other with the sales rep name. There we go. It's thinking about things a little bit today. There's region. We'll call this sales rep name. And then we're going to unpivot all this data, right? So this data is all pivoted. We don't want that, right? We want to unpivot this so that it's two columns instead of this array. I'm going to highlight all of that. I'm going to right click and say unpivot columns. And there we go. We've got the date and we've got the number of sales, right? So very nice, quick, easy. Let's change this date. Notice that right now it's showing up as text. Let's go ahead and switch that to a date field. And we'll go ahead and move that up, right? Just showing you some things we can do. So we have very quickly taken our data from this, which is not going to be usable inside of a data model at all, and we've converted it in a few steps to some usable data. Let's step over to our sales orders and let's do a couple things here. Let's get rid of this ID column. Let's just get that out of there. We don't need that in our data here. Let's filter out a customer. Let's say I've recognized that there's a customer 171 whose data is erroneous and I want to filter that out. I'm going to filter that data out. And let's do a quick calculation that shows the days to ship, so the difference between order date and ship date. I'm going to do a custom column, and I'm going to call this column days to ship. And I'm going to say the ship date minus the order date. Looks like we are good. All right, it gives me this weird time code for the calculation, so let's just change that to a whole number. And there we go, right? So we've been able to just clean this up. All this stuff is going to live here, so at any time we could come back to it. I'm going to hit close and apply. It's going to close Power Query, and it's going to apply all of the changes. We want to use Power Query to make any kind of structural changes to our data, so that way whenever we refresh our data, if we refresh our data, it's going to pull it through all those changes again, and it'll keep our data looking the way that we want it to look. All right, this is good. Now let's go back to our table view and see. Now inside of the data model itself, we can start doing some formatting, right? So I can come here and let's make these look like just short dates. Okay, nice and easy. And this honestly is the more arduous, longer, more difficult process in the whole Power BI process, right? It's the cleaning up of the data, the getting the data in here, getting it formatted, getting it looking the way that we want it to look. That is really the long process. The actual creation of our reports, which I'm going to do in just 1 second here, you're going to see is very, very quick, very easy, unless you spend like a ton of time, meticulously formatting things to look the way that you want them to look, right? So we want to spend time doing this so that when we begin to create our reports and then ultimately our dashboards, everything is going to be displayed using the formattings and things that we have set in place here. And there are a bunch of other things that we can do in here, of course, that we're just not going to get into here in the interest of time. All right, so there it is. We've got our data in place, right? If we look at our sales reps, we see that that has come in the right way. Everything else is good. I'm ready to start creating some visualizations. Let's just do a couple of quick visualizations here. We have all our visualization styles here. Let's just add in a couple of different ones. Let's do a clustered bar chart here. Why not? I'm going to click on that. And let's just drop some values in here. Let's look at the sales per subcategory. Right, nice and easy. And let's have all of that broken down. Matter of fact, let's not do that. Let's look at the sales per month. I'm going to come in here and grab the months. Let's look at the sales per month, and let's have that broken down by category, right? All right, nice, quick, easy, painless, right? We could format this several different ways. Let's add in another visualization. Let's get in a quick map here. Let's drop in a map. Where's my map? Here it is. And let's look at this information per state. And let's take a look at the shipments. Let's look at quantities to represent the bubble size. And let's look at it broken down per region in the legend here. All right, that's lovely. That looks nice. Let's get in here just a nice scorecard that is going to show to us the total of sales. Let's get another nice scorecard here. You see how quick and easy this is? This is fantastic. Let's get another nice scorecard here that shows us the number of shipments. All right, this is fantastic. We'll put one more visualization in here. Let's just get a nice table in here. Because I don't want a matrix, I want a table. And let's have our table just kind of break things down here by region, category, subcategory, and sales. All right, isn't that fantastic? We've got a nice table. We can just kind of size that. All right, so you can start doing things however you want to do them. Just for good measure, let's do one more. Let's put a funnel in here. And let's look at the subcategories. And let's just look at the sales per subcategory. Drop it into the values there. All right, beautiful. And let's be able to filter all this data by a couple things. Let's drop in a slicer. Where's my slicer? There you are. Stop hiding from me. Let's be able to filter this by region. And we'll set these up as boxes, or I'm going to go over to the formatting. And I'm going to change this from a vertical list to a tile situation, right? All right, that is wonderful. And let's also, one last thing for good measure, let's get a date slicer in here where we can filter for date range. Let's just drop order date in there. All right, we can filter for a date range. Isn't that nice? All right, let's move that up. Whee! All right, there we go. So nice, quick, easy. Like I said, the difficult part of this, or the longer part of this, is the setup. Once we get our data set up, right, I can start using all this stuff. I can start clicking on things, and it's going to filter everything for me based on what I've selected. You can see all of that happening. Let's filter based on our dates. Right, all this is wonderful. Okay. You can also do something called a quick highlight here, which basically would set it up where it's already set up by default, where if I were to, well, this is resetting, if I were to click on a value, it's going to filter everything else. Let's say I clicked over here on basketball, right? It is going to highlight all the other data out here based on that same thing. Or let's say I came here and clicked on women for subcategory, right? It is going to go ahead and highlight those values throughout the rest of my data model, right? So this is fantastic, right? We could add multiple pages in here, and we could have as many pages as we want with different data in them. Let's just call this sales analysis. And let's go ahead and save this. And I'm just going to save this right there. That's fine. And let's just call this sales dash or sales model. It'd be nice if I could spell model, right? Sales model A. All right. Now, ultimately, what we would do is we would want to publish this to the web service. Let me show you an example of a finished version of this where information is already published to our web service here. Here is my web service, and if I go look at my workspace, you'll see that I've got a bunch of different data models already published here. If we start taking a look, you'll see that we have different reports. Here's one report based off of a model. All right, this is fantastic. All right, we could do different things with the data. Here is another report based off of the same data that basically the same model that I just showed you. Here's a more completed report from that same model. All right, look at all this good stuff going on in here. All these different pages, right? So all this was created in Power BI Desktop and then published out to the web service. And then here is an example of a dashboard. You'll notice on all of these visualizations, there's a little pin. It says pin visual. I could use that to pin the visual to an existing dashboard. Let me show you an example of a dashboard. Again, this is only created in the web service. Here's an example of a dashboard that is pulling different visualizations from various reports. I could click on a visualization and it will load up the full report for that visualization, or it'll crash. But you get the idea. Let's wait and see what happens. But you get the idea. This is a dashboard, pulls in individual visualizations. I can pin them, and then I can go and look, and I could share this out to whoever I wanted to share this out with. All right, so again, we see how we pass data through our Power BI model. We connect to and transform that data. Again, this is going to be done using Power BI Desktop, right? All of the connecting, all of the transforming. Let's put a DT here for desktop. All this is going to be done in Power BI Desktop. And then at some point, we are publishing it. You can create reports in desktop too. And then at some point, we are publishing this to the web service where we can begin to do all the other things with our data. All right. At this time, Mariella, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and you can let me know if we have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ed. Before we get into any questions, I wanted to let our audience know that as a New Horizons exclusive benefit for attending this webinar, we have a free digital achievement badge for Microsoft's PL 300 course. I went ahead and dropped the link in the chat. If you're unable to redeem the badge right now or are watching a recording of this webinar, you can still gain access to the free badge with the link you'll receive in your email after the webinar. So go ahead and click that link, show it off to the world, show your boss that you're awesome and you got a cool achievement code. Um, Other than that, we have a bunch of great questions here for you, Ed. Here, let me start off with one that we got earlier that I noted. Alrighty, we have one here from Daniel. How can I set up on-premises data? How to set up on-premises data gateways? I'm having trouble getting data to publish to the server without breaking links. It appears to work around it appears the workaround is to use gateway. Gateway? Never heard of this. I'm so sorry.
Gateway, yes.
Gateway.
So if you are connecting using Power BI Desktop, I'm not sure that you would need a gateway particularly for that. But if you do, you would download that. You would handle that from the web service. So inside of the web service, you will see an option. Let's see if I actually see it here. If this is acting correctly now. We should see an option. Let's refresh this. You should see an option somewhere for downloading a gateway or installing a gateway, probably this download arrow that's right up here in the upper right. And that should allow you to be able to do that. But I haven't run into that using Power BI Desktop. Typically, I run into that using like Power Apps or something like that, where you do have to install a gateway. But if you know, that's where you would do that from, is using that. You would download that from inside of the web service.
Excellent. Good to note moving forward. Can
Yeah, yeah.
Power
Here it is. I'm sorry. Here it is right here. Data gateway.
Oh,
Just click on the download, the downward arrow. Data gateway is right there, and it should give you options for downloading and installing it right from there.
Excellent. Very insightful. Can Power BI clean up incorrectly parsed spreadsheets?
Absolutely. That's what we demonstrated there. That's what we could use Power BI, Power Query rather to do. Now, again, ideally, the more clean you can have your data before you start pulling it in, the less work you have to do. But that's what Power Query is there for, and you can use those tools to clean stuff up.
Awesome. We have another little follow-up here from Daniel. I am setting up on desktop. Then when I am trying to direct connect to an MS SQL Server dashboard, when he publishes the link breaks. So, hmm,
Okay, I'd have to have more information and time to be
gotcha.
give a more specific answer to, unfortunately.
No worries. And we are super mindful of your time, so I think we're gonna have just one more question, and then we will let all of you go after. So we have another question here. What is the process to deploy desktop dashboards for everyone to see?
From inside of the web service, you would simply be able to share. So if we're inside, let's jump back over to our web service here. And let's jump back into our sales dash. See if it wants to load correctly this time. There we go. So right from in here, two things. You could either, if you have a workspace for like a team or something, you could invite people into that workspace and they'd be able to see it. Otherwise, from inside of the dashboard, you're not going to see any options for doing this in the desktop version, by the way. Just in the web service, you're going to go to share, and then, if you have the licensing and the ability to do that, you'd be able to go ahead and share that out with whoever it is that needs to see it. You should be able to share with both internal and external users. I know some organizations will block external sharing, but that capability is available.
Excellent. Very good info moving forward. And one more question from Christy at the very end. Yes, we do have course availability. It depends on what you want to get trained in, but we do have Power Platform Fundamentals. And then we also have Microsoft Power BI Data Analyst courses. So it'll be PL 900 or PL 300, and you'll definitely be getting a follow-up with the next course dates and any info on that you want to look moving forward. So, other than that, I believe that should be it for us today. Thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and this was a lot of fantastic info from our excellent instructor today. So if you need any more info on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at newhorizons.com. And if you missed out on any of the session, be on the lookout for that recording link in your email after the webinar. Thanks again, Ed.
My pleasure.
Alrighty, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Bye.